How we doing?
We're doing great. Yeah. If I was a little bit more lyrically gifted, I would try to hum the theme song, because to me, like, anytime I hear U.S. Open, I hear the da da da, and then it goes on way longer than that. It's just a great theme song. And so, maybe some constructive feedback to you and the Bay State Golf Podcast is you could start splicing in some of that music, to make us seem a little bit more professional. But yeah, no, I mean,
maybe music, I'll add it to the intro.
I half expected NBC, after it took them 6 months to decide who was going to be in the booth, I half expected them to say Johnny Miller's back, which would just be amazing. But he's not. It's at Pinehurst, which is a place you and I have played, which does impact, which a lot of people have played, and it makes it that much more special, honestly.
Yeah, for sure. I even watching Lancaster last week, or whatever that was, 2 weeks ago for the U.S. Women's Open, I was able to go out there and play that for Media Day, and you kind of realize why they have those days for the media to come play, just because it kind of enlightens whoever is covering these events to talk about the golf courses. And Pinehurst is definitely a place I'd say, I don't know what percentage of people who will tune in have played. It's probably a smaller number than I think it is, but it's a bigger number than have played, Augusta National,
so put Augusta aside,
even Pebble.
That was going to be my question to you: is do you think that Pinehurst? And I already know the answer is no, because I'm doing this on the fly, but Pinehurst has to be a top 2 most played course amongst the viewers. I know what number 1 is, even as I was talking, but Pinehurst has to be top 2.
What would you say, Bethpage Black?
Oh yeah,
is number 1. Yeah, and then Chambers. I don't know how many people play Chambers Bay, or if that gets
Torrey.
Kind of repeat play, and Torrey. The U.S. Open does a pretty good job of getting to these places, though, which is kind of nice that we're within the rotation. We get courses that you can, if you want to pay to play them, you can. Yeah, but you're probably right. Pinehurst is probably number 2 on the list as far as amount of people who are watching. But Pebble, Pebble churns people through. I don't know. It's probably pretty close between those two.
I'd love to know, because Pebble does churn people through, and it costs. And I was having this conversation with my cousin the other day. People were actually comparing Pinehurst to Pebble, and I don't think they compare even remotely. Like, to me, Pinehurst is way more affordable. Even if the rounds are somewhat close, the surroundings are very different, and you can make a very reasonable golf trip down to Pinehurst with other terrific golf courses, which you really can't do going to Monterey Peninsula. But that being said, the people that are playing Pebble, they might be interested in pro golf. The people that are playing Bethpage, some of them might not be interested in pro golf. I don't know.
Yeah. So I guess let's just get what are your takes on Pinehurst? Do you have any favorite holes either that you remember playing? I've played it once. I don't know how many times you've played it. Once or more than once?
No, I've played it. So in the last 3 years, I've played it twice, but probably 4 times overall.
Okay.
There was actually a Nike Junior Series that they would do in the winter down there every year that I was playing when I was a junior. But so favorite holes, and we had chatted about this last week when we were, not to brag, at the game 1 of the Celtics Mavericks series. It is as consistent a strong golf course as there is out there, right? Like, there's no holes that you walk off and like, that's kind of weak. And it's in that same respect, there's like few golf holes that you walk off and you're like, wow, that's clearly the best golf hole on this golf course, right?
Yeah.
Like, it sort of has both of them. I might go a little outside the box. I've always loved the 8th hole for a combination of playing it. It's a shortish par 5 when you play it, and Famously, John Daly had an absolute meltdown on that hole. So like that hole has distinct history that you can point to, and it's just a really cool hole that then leads into 9, which is an awesome par 3 too. So I think like that combination is one of my favorites.
Yeah. So that's, as I've been thinking about Pinehurst and kind of revisiting when I played there 2 years ago, and I said to you, the middle of the round, like 9 and 10, I remember 11 and 12, like a little blurry, and then like 13 through 18 are crystal clear.
Mm-hmm.
The start is crystal clear, even though like your mind is racing and you're just trying to survive a little bit and get used to hitting into these greens and digging your ball out of wire grass and waste area. But there are, like you just said it, there's these little, there's like pockets, like 4, 5 is another awesome, incredible stretch where you basically play like 1, 2, 3, go straight out. And then you kind of walk a little bit across and you play 4, 5 as this little just out and back. It's a par 4
on the
and
most
a par 5.
dramatic terrain on the golf course too. Like it's the most
I'd say like
elevated.
Yep. It's like there, and 13, 14 are probably the 2 places where you feel like you're falling and climbing a little bit. So 4, I think 4 for me was my favorite hole, and it's going to be a bastard for the players. What tees did you play from when you played there? I'm sure you played different ones. This was another thing that I found interesting when I went.
So definitely didn't play all the way back. We had some good players in our group. I believe it was around like 67 or 66.
Okay.
Something like that.
We played it shorter. They walked us right to the whites. I was playing.
We did not. So I have done it again because I've done it a couple times. Like the whites are too short to play. Like for people who can hit it as far as we do. Not that we can ridiculously far, but it actually is too short to play. But I'll tell you one quick story why, and this is why I know like they want to walk everyone to the whites. Last year we had 4 of us, 2 single digits and 2 low teen handicappers called like 212s. And the first tee, or like the second and third group, about 7:30, we got 2 caddies. And the first hole, it is not a hard drive. Like for as nervous you are, it's not, maybe not the easiest, but like if you put it out there, you've got a good chance of being in the fairway and having a relatively open shot in. So the 4 of us happened to all put it in the fairway. And as we're walking off the tee, one of our caddies looks at us and goes, "Man, I didn't see that once all day yesterday." And the 4 of us looked at him and were like, "Oh, you didn't see 4 fairways hit?" Like kind of thinking that was his shtick. The caddies.
Yeah.
And he goes, "No, I didn't see 4 balls airborne yesterday."
Oh, no.
And he was like, "I'm so excited for this round." And again, maybe it was a little puppy, but genuinely, and we sort of prodded him later in the round after we got to know him. Like, "Were you serious about not seeing 4 balls airborne yesterday?" He's like, "Yeah, there's a lot of people that come out here and they go to the back and they're terrible."
Yeah.
So you could see why they want to walk you to the whites for sure.
Yep. And I was by myself. If I was with a group, you'd feel more comfortable, or you'd have like you'd have it figured out when you get to the tee box and you'd ask the starter. But we got walked there and it was like, I'm not going to be the one guy asking, "Can we back?" So I played the whites and it was fine. And, but yeah, so I think it's like one of those things sometimes you wish happened at other golf courses, just so pace. We were the first group off and we played so fast that we ran into the tee times. They send people off 14, which is basically the next closest hole to the clubhouse. And we had to wait on 14 for groups for like a block of tee times to finish teeing off at like whatever that. I mean, we were told multiple times on like after the 5th or 6th hole, a ranger came up and he said, "You guys should feel free to slow down. You're playing too fast," which never happens. Which was great. So 18 great holes. I think the other kind of cool part about the way it's routed, or just the way the pars fall, is you get 4-3-4-3 to fit, or 3-4-3-4 to finish. between 15 and 17 being par threes and 16 and 18 being par fours, which it doesn't happen all that often. And it feels like you run out of birdies pretty quick with 16 being kind of a huge, tough par four that's usually a par five.
Yeah, that's
and
a
18
US
is
Open,
18.
par four.
Yeah. So that's another just little, not quirk, but just feature of the place that the 2 par threes on the back are 15 and 17. And you close the front 9 with a par 3 as well.
Yeah, which is a classic Donnie, just having 9 as a par 3.
Yeah, I wrote that today for amateurgolf.com. I picked out 4 holes, and I was like, there. It's not rare.
How many
for
do you have to choose from?
I had to choose from. I know. 4 holes worth watching. I could have done all 18, but
sorry. I thought you meant you picked 4 9-hole par 3s from Donnie.
No, I was picking 4 holes from Pinehurst just to watch. It's like a little viewers thing. But I wrote that. I said it is not rare for Ross to either finish a 9 or start a 9 with a par 3, like a 10th hole par 3, like Worcester.
I think 15, if pressed, is probably my least favorite hole on the golf course. But then you get right into just an absolute gauntlet of a finish, and 17 is so cool. Like, I love 17 as a par 3. It's like set down a little bit, and you can see 18th going up there. It's quite a finish.
Yeah, even 16, like you play 16, which runs like parallel to 17 almost, right? So you hit your 16 tee shot, and if you look left, you can look across 17, and you can see 18, which runs perpendicular to 16 and 17. So you get this like little sneak peek at 18, and then you get back into the trees, and then you play 17 and you get another look, and then you come up home. It's a great finish. And it all happens really quickly too, because you play 2 par 3s, right? You're hitting 2 iron shots into greens, and then you're playing 2 par 4s. It just goes by faster than some other last 4 hole stretches do.
It does. And the 18 is significantly more uphill, of course, than you'll see on TV, but even as you're playing it, it doesn't feel that uphill. But when you are walking down 16, you can see how uphill it is. And then just on the last 4 finish, if you haven't done it, going back to watch the 99 US Open, at least the backside, the Payne Stewart ends up winning. It is very appropriately known for Payne Stewart holding his putt on 18 to beat Mickelson, who had never won a major at the time. But a lot of the narrative actually stops there. And it was Tiger was right there.
Yeah.
Tiger was right in that tournament. And I think that Payne and Mickelson traded birdies on 17 and Tiger didn't, coming right before them. And that sort of cost him. Like the stretch was very undecided. So it's a must watch to go back and watch the end of that tournament. At that point, I think it was probably the best golf tournament I'd ever watched in my life. I was 14 years old, but it was the most exciting.
Yeah. I didn't watch it.
Oh, no kidding.
I was on a school trip and did not have a TV and did not watch it. So
the
05,
what?
It was after our freshman year, and I was on a school trip with Fenn because I went. Okay. We went on a like post graduation school trip for like a week, and that weekend was part of the trip, so I missed it, and I missed 14, which was fine. That wasn't that great, so I've only really got to watch 05. Tiger has played 2 of these, and he's lost to like 3 total guys. Because he was in I think he was second place to Michael Campbell.
All-time bad golf tournament, even though Tiger was in it. But.
Yeah. The other thing I tell people to go listen to before we kind of talk about some of the other 3 tournaments at Pinehurst, No Laying Up did like a 2-hour podcast where they did like little 45-minute deep dives on each of the 3 Pinehurst majors, Pinehurst US Opens, and it's excellent. Solly does one, I think KVV does 99, Solly does 05, and Tron does 14. And they just kind of dig up some funny stories and like, some, especially 05 when guys just completely. What are you drinking?
Oh, I just poured myself a glass of wine. Can you hear that?
All right. Oh, absolutely. Loud and clear.
Yeah. I was trying to be quiet.
That was fine. A little ambiance.
You know what? I'm watching Tiger and Charlie on the screen right now, which I know you'll get into.
Oh, we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Sorry. Didn't mean to distract you. I couldn't find the mute button, so I was like, just be quiet.
Yeah, so past Pinehurst U.S. Opens, go listen to the No Laying Up. It's great. Even if it's a Friday or Saturday, listen or break it up or just listen. So the 99 one is outstanding. And a couple things. I am fortunate enough this week to just have this like incredible. The USGA does a great job for like media stuff. And I have I have a virtual hub. So I've got a ton of stats and I've got some stuff at the end before we do our picks that I'm going to throw at you. But this is one thing that stood out to me. Over the 3 U.S. Opens held at Pinehurst, there were 468 total participants and only 4 players managed to shoot under par over the entire championship. Payne Stewart did it in 99, and then it was Keimer, Fowler, and Eric Compton in 2014. Michael Campbell won with even par in 2005, which is incredible. And then to top it off, Michelle Wie West, who won in 14 the next week after Keimer won, was the only player under par for the U.S. Women's Open that year. So that's 5 players total. And what is that, 600 golfers, and including the women
and it's
who
not
have
like
shot under par. It's incredible.
I mean, you've got Keimer, who obviously is well under par, but a lot of those other guys like limped, barely got to under par. So.
Yeah. Fowler was 1 and Compton was 1. And Keimer shot 10 under in the first 2 rounds and finished at 9.
Right.
So even just his weekend was obviously good enough. He had basically locked it up by Friday night. And then just looking at yardages, and I think this is a number that matters for me because Pinehurst is a place we're going to see U.S. Opens basically every 6 years now. We've got it in 2029, 2035, 2041, 2047. It was 7,100 yards in 99. It was basically just over 7,200 yards. It was like 50 yards longer in 05. Then it was 300 yards longer in 14 at 75.62. And this year it's actually 14 yards shorter, according to it's 75.48. If I did my math right. So at least it's around the same. No,
especially with the distance gains. But there's not a lot of places. So I've heard that there on a few holes, the caddies were pointing out some of the tees that are on different holes, and I think they're using the 18th tee box on the 4th course for a 12th hole, I want to say.
Okay.
And so because the 4th course is right there too.
It's
yeah, that's interesting. Someone said that they might back up to the 6th tee box on the 4th hole, which didn't seem like they needed to do. But it's very surprising to hear that 10 years later, they're playing the same
golf course, basically. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, my guess is what we don't ever do. Like they set these, this is sort of a weird, probably interesting to nobody but you and I, but inside baseball golf talk, like they set the yardage, but that yardage changes every single day. And so what would be interesting to me is if after the fact they said, here's the total yardage that the golf course played. They never did
like all 4 rounds.
Yeah,
that would be cool. So
like
what would it would come out to be somewhere in like the 30,000, right? 32.
You'd be a little,
just multiply by 4
north of 30. Yeah. But they never do that. And so they set these yardages and like, this is the longest course ever. It's like, well, how did it play for the 4 days? So like,
yeah. Cause they can move, especially here, they can move 13 and 3. You would hope they mess around with those tee boxes to tempt guys to maybe try to drive it up near those greens.
Totally. They will do that.
I hope so.
And that, So that's one of the statistics that really annoys me that they don't do. And the other is when they compare scoring averages by round for the first and the second round to the third and the fourth. To me, that's one of the most irrelevant statistics. You need to compare the guys that made the cut the first and the second round to the third and the fourth. And so like, oh, this golf course has gotten easier from the second to the third round. Well, no, you're just comparing the guys that made the cut because they're the only ones that play.
Right.
It's a massively flawed that they do in every single event.
Yep. Just this, I didn't put this on our little agenda, but it made me, what you were saying just made me think of it a little bit, and just some of what I've listened to this week and thought about. What do you see as the like identity of the U.S. Open right now? And I ask that because I think Lancaster 2 weeks ago was this wonderful little opening that might allow the USGA to push the limit this week, because I think they saw the reaction of like fans and media and even the players to a golf course that was, I heard this a lot, like it was very hard, but no one got embarrassed. Even though Nelly Korda made a 10, she handled it. And that's kudos to the players too, because I think I could think of some players on the men's side who, if they made a 10 on the third hole on a Thursday,
which by the way
would not have been a,
but that was just a bad day in the office. Fair. Like,
sure,
people do that. So,
but I just wonder if this week might give a little bit of an opening for the USGA to just maybe push it one notch higher than they typically would.
I hope you're right. Unfortunately, I don't think you are. And
I know. It's wishful thinking.
The reason being is, and it's a sad state of the game where we've come down to, it's all about money, right? And the USGA, the purse for the U.S. Women's Open is the biggest purse in the game, I think.
Yes.
The purses for the men, it's not like their purses are all now $20+ million for these big events. Even events like next week, the Travelers, which is a garbage golf course. And so it is one of the worst golf courses that I've ever played. But so the women want to exude praise on the USGA for giving them the big purse. So you're not going to hear them push back on it. And so the USGA can then push the envelope. I don't think that's true with the players here.
Yeah.
And it's a really, really sad state of affairs. And it also goes, even the USAM, like they put the USAM courses to the brink.
I know.
To the brink, because what are the players going to say? They're giving out a master's exemption, right? Like, I mean, 2 master's exemptions, which is preposterous. So I don't see it going back the other way. And I do think it all comes down to money.
Yeah. Nick Macario posted something just a picture of, maybe it was the 16th hole USGA kind of mark board today at, on the tee box, those very distinguished tee marker yardages. And 16 was playing like 528, and Macario said, "Oh, the U.S. Open is playing 16 30 yards shorter than they did in 2019. That they were playing it like 550, like 560 as a par 4 for the kids in 2019. Now, it was probably dry as hell. It was August, and the ball's going forever. But I thought it was just a funny comment. All right, let's.
What do you think though? Like, so you asked the question.
Yeah,
I said I don't think so, but what do you
think? I don't. I'm just. It's wishful thinking. You're right, but it was such a refreshing U.S. Women's Open, and it felt, you were, just talking about 99, and it just felt like, I mean, we were watching Yuka Sasso hit 5 irons, and Andrea Lee hitting hybrids into holes from 180 to 200 yards, and like I know golf courses have to be so long to get that out of the men because they have to be like 270 yards away on a par 4 to have to hit a shot like that. But Yuka Saso separated herself. It was kind of like a congested Sunday. It was a great weekend. And the best player won. And the best player won because she had to hit like big time shots with a bunch of different golf clubs and then sealed it with this incredible little pitch shot from in front of the 18th green after her ball rolled off the front. I mean, it was just quintessential US Open golf that I think we'd all like to see, where it's hard, but it's not, I don't know. It's not like there's no one complaining about losing the golf. Like the golf course was never lost. It was just hard and it was a challenge and it was windy and it was a grind. And they lost a bunch of their best players,
too, right?
which is too bad. Yes, for sure.
So there's an equipment play there too. There's you've got Bryson saying that he can hit the ball anywhere in the club face and goes dead straight with his brand new golf clubs. I mean, like there is an equipment thing, and who governs the equipment? The USGA does.
USGA,
and I know they're heavily influenced monetarily and other ways by these big equipment companies. So I don't know. It is unfortunate. I think that the women's game has been more entertaining to watch for quite some time now. I've been watching the women's game for a while and tried to get people on it even before it was as popular as it is now. But yeah. By the way, sorry, I'm going to do one very quick tangent. I know you want to get into something else, but the fact they moved the Payne Stewart statue this week is preposterous. I can't believe they moved it.
Well, I think the problem is if it's left where it usually is, it's just hidden by the grandstand.
Yeah, but it's just, I don't know. It's iconic there. Like everyone sees it, and they just moved it.
Yeah, I just don't think it was in a place where anyone was seeing it. I saw an interview with Payne's son and daughter, whose names escape me right now, and I think they were kind of grateful that it was moved because it's like at the forefront now and welcoming people in.
It's just such a great thing to see when you go there, like where it is, because it literally looks right over the 18th green. It's
outstanding.
We all have pictures there with it, and it's one of the best. And now it just kind of sits alone there, and I guess I kind of get it now, but I don't know.
Yeah, it was just hidden. All right, I want to get into. I was trying to figure out just like what last time we did. We talked about guys in the wilderness. We talked about some dudes who might be just looking at the time a little bit. Had a little TikTok segment. Maybe we'll revisit that at the Open with the last major and the feeling of time. But I just kind of my voice is bad because I had to go to another Celtics game, the second game this week, and a lot of annoying Mavs fans in the crowd. Game 2. I got to be honest. I was doing a lot of yelling. 2 days later, I'm still hoarse. So I just wrote down a bunch of like halfway point of the major season. Personally, it feels like not much else matters except for, Scottie's dominance. And these are halfway point topics, thoughts that don't really include Scottie. And we can talk about Scottie as well, but just things that have nothing to do with Scottie. First thing that I wrote down, this is not looking at anything or reviewing anything. Collin Morikawa with a T3 and a T4 in the first 2 majors, has a good week last week, is a surprise to me in a good way. I'm glad he's doing well. I think we've both, me more so than you, have challenged the 2 majors as far as winning in front of actual crowds, and he doesn't seem like he's super comfortable playing in front of big crowds. Especially, even last week, this past weekend and on Sunday. But just one thing I wanted to put a pin in. I think it's been an impressive major season for him right now, and it kind of makes me think like, man, he could get to 4. There's a possibility he wins 2 on his own, on top of the 2 that he won at Harding and at St. George's over the next, 5 years, if he's just going to continue to be around.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said. I would lump him in pretty much the same category as Xander. It's just people that are playing unbelievable golf, and Xander happened to pick off a win, right? A great win. any major is a great win. So yeah, he's one. He's probably not story 1 through 5 because those are all the same person, but he's up there.
Yeah. What does this golf course fit him as a great iron player?
Historically, no.
Right.
Would not, because you need you're not going to hit every green, and the chipping technique that he has actually gotten much better at this year is based on the fact that he's chipping out of a lot of rough, and that's not what is that's a normal PGA Tour golf course. And so I don't think it fits him unless he would have to elevate, and his putting is one of his weaker elements. So, and he's shorter, so I don't see it.
Yeah, I don't either. I was trying to figure out if there's a world where he could win.
His short game has significantly improved this year, and that's part of the reason why. But and he's done okay at Augusta. The greens are a little bit bigger at Augusta than here. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me to see him up there.
Yeah, right. Especially with the week with the season he's had so far, I wouldn't be surprised if he could be. I remember last week or last time before the PGA, you were talking about guys who could very much win a day. I think like you had Tom Hoagie as a this guy could just make a trillion birdies on Friday morning and have the low of the day.
My day winner, which I wish that would be a bet. I've got there's no way he's going to win, but Hovland could win a day. Like I see him winning a day.
Yep. Schauffele, after winning, I put his major career win total at 2.5. Would you take the over or the under? Does he win one more? Does he win two more or more?
I mean, I hope he wins less. Because I'm not.
You're not a Xander guy. Okay.
No, I'm not. I 3 majors is pretty much a Hall of Fame career, especially with the amount of wins that he'll have. He's had trouble closing in the past, but he's so good. He's hitting the ball a mile. I'm just not convinced we know this next cycle of players, the Dunlaps, the Thorbjornsons, the Sargents, like how quickly are they going to come on the scene and start winning majors, and then how quickly
Ludwig,
yes. But and then the other question, or the other data point is money. Like how much these guys want it. So they're playing for so much money now. They could retire at 35.
Yeah.
Or they could just get disinterested at 35 because they've got so much money. And I don't know. A lot of things can happen. I think I'd go the under with Xander.
Yeah. I didn't get to watch a lot of the PGA, and going back and watching highlights and listening to people talk about it, that golf course also felt like the perfect Xander course to win. He could win like 2 more PGAs if they're set up to be 20 to or like 18 to 22 under par winners.
Yeah,
he could possibly win.
He
could make mistakes. He could kind of be sloppy.
Right, and you're. I don't love some of these cliche terms right now, but like for Valhalla, it matters. The shot value was incredibly low. Now, the shot value at Pinehurst goes up exponentially. Yes,
for sure. That's a good way to put it. Just to put Xander's like major streak right now into perspective, I've got another USJ stat here. Dating back to the 22 PGA Championship at Southern Hills, he has finished among the top 20 in each of the last 9 majors.
Whoa, really? Top 20?
He's been in the top 20 in the last 9 majors. Over the last 30 years, the only other player with a streak that long is Tiger Woods, who had a 10-start streak from 06 to 09, and then a 14-start streak from 98 to 2001. Jack Nicklaus.
14 straight majors. He was in the top.
20. Top 20.
Oh my God, how many stats do we hear about Tiger? And I feel like I've never heard that one. That's amazing.
It's amazing. Jack Nicklaus, 33 consecutive majors.
What?
In the top 20. From 1970 to 1978, nearly the entire decade, he finished in the top 20 in majors. It's astounding.
That is astounding.
Yeah,
Like,
it's a great
I
stat.
don't care what anyone says about the Like I think greatness is greatness no matter what era, and like comparing eras is one of the
Plumbers and firemen.
Yeah, like it's just I don't know. Like you see a lot of people saying, "Oh, Babe Ruth wasn't as good of a player as he was." Like, okay, guy was the best that he's playing against, but 33 straight majors in the top 20.
Yeah, that's almost a decade. I mean, that's 7 short of an entire decade of top 20s. It's incredible.
Yeah, I think a lot of people know. Like he's got 18 majors in 19 seconds, which is crazy too.
Yeah, I think Schauffele is an under. He wins. I think he ultimately will win one more major. I think that feels like he feels like a 2 major guy, especially in that list of like when you're on a list like that with Tiger and Jack, you're probably going to steal one more if you can just. I mean, that's a great streak, and his U.S. Open record is great too.
But it's a younger. So when you actually
he's 30, right?
You kind of talked me into going the over because when you're on a list with Tiger and Jack, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It could go either way. But there's so many. I feel like in all of these conversations, if you clipped every podcast throughout time who are doing over-unders in majors, if you took the under, you'd win 80% of the time.
Yeah. Majors are hard to win. And I think you could make the argument that Xander right now is, if you're thinking about like, is he peaking? Is he at the end? I'd say he's peaking.
Yeah.
And if he gets 2 within his peak, that's pretty good. And his peak could run out in like a year and a half. Like he might have 18 more months,
I guess,
especially if he's chasing speed and he's in his 30s now. You just never know. So I'd give him one more. 2 in that peak is a pretty good. Good run.
I know JT has 2 majors now, but 2.5 is a good argument for him right now. And like that is
JT.
Yeah, go back a couple years ago. And that sounds like a preposterous thing to say.
Yeah, for sure. Bryson. This guy is. I don't know. The discussion around him is so interesting now, and as I was typing up, I just wrote a lot of Bryson love. It feels like he's just in this really good place where he's not consumable unless you want to go consume his YouTube stuff or you watch the majors. And otherwise, you don't really see him on a week-to-week basis. So his shtick does not grind people's gears. I mean, we used to be in a world where people were getting kicked out of tournaments for yelling Brooksy.
Like, I know. Yeah. But at this point, and I think this is where the whole needle has shifted on him, it doesn't seem like it's a shtick. Like there's plenty of guys that seem like they're not genuine. This actually seems like it's who he is, and he's never really changed.
I guess.
Now,
I don't know.
You don't have to like it.
No, I mean, I don't love it. I don't need to. I mean, he's become for me the person that. Like if you're hanging out if you're getting like a bunch of friends together, you'd invite him, but you're not going to hang out with him you're not going to want to hang out with him every week.
I wouldn't invite him anywhere. You can't,
but that friend, everyone's got like that second circle of friends. I think he's probably in everyone's second circle of friends where it's like, oh yeah, Bryson would be fun to have a party when there's 20 people here, but I'm not inviting Bryson over when there's 5 people here.
So, I'm very consistent in my opinion on Bryson. I don't root for him, but I can acknowledge that he is great for the game because he's a character and he does things differently and he has an opinion and he's not Xander Schauffele that is none of those things that I just said. And so I appreciate Bryson for being different.
Will there be a shift at some point? There always is. There is always something that happens. We build these people up. Like Bryson, we built up and then he got broken down. He broke himself down a little bit too. And now he's like slowly building himself back up. And no one in the media is really challenging him anymore. And they're kind of saying what you said. He's great for the game. He thinks differently. He pushes the limits. His equipment. Is there like what befalls him where he has a little like, man, Bryson's annoying again. Or why did Bryson just did something? That was a weird thing Bryson just did that wasn't like quirky or original. It was just kind of odd and off-putting. Because everyone, like people, that happens. It's going to happen again. People will start to look for it. I don't know what it is.
That is why I appreciate him, is because it's not a when. Sorry, it's not an if. It's a when.
It's a when.
And
yeah,
it's the same reason why I appreciate someone like Brandel Chamblee, right? Who is an absolute clown sometimes, but he is giving you an actual opinion. And I'm looking up at the Golf Channel set right now, and earlier there was Nota Begay. I don't think Nota Begay said one thing interesting in his entire announcing career. Like,
no, he's the Brian Windhorse of golf.
It's just there's nothing
he just
there.
Latched onto a guy and
he latched onto a guy and he just
got a job.
Talking about. I won't go.
He does a lot of good things for the game. He's got his tournaments and all that stuff. But yeah, he's on TV. It's
TV.
just
like I don't need him on my TV. No. Bryson at least evokes an opinion, and
yeah, I mean it's just it's just amazing the shift when we're thinking about him screaming or pointing at fans and getting them kicked out because they're calling him Brooksy, and he's getting like berated at. I don't know if that was a Kiowa. That wasn't that long ago.
No, but by the way, Sergio's done the same thing. JT did the same thing.
Yeah. The next thing I wrote down, I had John Rahm, and the conversation obviously changed tonight when he withdrew from the tournament, and just the live guys in general too don't have a lot of top 10s in the majors right now. Bryson has top 10s in both the Masters and the PGA. Cam Smith finished T6 at the Masters, and Turl finished, I think, 9th at the Masters.
Shot 80 last week, or Cam Smith shot 80 last week, and he was everyone's
he did
last year.
Yeah, and people I think still kind of like him this week because of maybe it feels a little bit like home, and
there's nothing
the golf
that
course
can cure shooting. Yeah.
Shooting 80 at Houston.
I will transpose that to me shooting 90. I can't go home and get over shooting 90.
I don't know. I think you could probably go play Indian Ridge after shooting 90 and put up a good number. Bet you could.
Maybe, but this isn't Royal Melbourne. This just looks like home.
This just feels like it. Yeah. But Rahm was the real one I wanted to talk about, and then his foot. I mean, this guy has now missed a cut.
Did you watch
finished
his press
T40.
conference? It was bizarre.
They've all been bizarre since he got back. He's combative. He's not as thoughtful.
But it was like the opposite of. I mean, it was combative, but he was trying to tell everybody how happy he was.
I know.
And then he withdraws an hour later. It was, and he very clearly wanted everyone to see that he was wearing a sandal. It's a foot injury, and so, God, I mean, this could be the most out of bound things. I'm not educated on this subject. I don't know intimately what his injury is. But if you can walk up there and walk around, I just think about what Tiger was playing through. You can't even get to Wednesday to try to get yourself a little bit better. So it's Tuesday.
Yeah, it was an early call, which surprised me. I mean, it's an infection. And by the way, who the hell knows?
You have played this golf course. It is not a hard walk.
No, it's not.
It is about just old Donnie. Design golf courses where the tees were right next to the greens.
Yeah.
And this one is not a hilly golf course. There's, tons of golf courses that are hilly. In terms of walking, this is not a hard one. So it must have been really bad. I never viewed Rahm as a guy that would do that. So that's why it's kind of weird.
Yeah. Yeah. The press conference was odd. They've all been a little bit strange. I don't know. I just think about him when he signed the contract in December, and he's on Pat McAfee, and people are talking about how he got the bag and all that nonsense, and now it's like, is he the ultimate example of maybe going to live for the wrong type of person is definitely not the right move if you want to be competitive. Like if you want a ton of money and you want to be DJ and not give two craps and have two majors. And I think the other thing with Liv, I think maybe just outside of Bryson, because Bryson feels like he's doing a bunch of other golf stuff and just.
I would put Brooks in there too, because Brooks never cared about PGA Tour either.
Yes.
It's but Brooks never cared.
But when we're looking at Joaquin Niemann and even David Puig, who qualified out at Lake Merced, I think he qualified. But like those guys get a lot of credit because they're, traveling around the world and playing. I don't know how much money those guys got to sign with Liv. So they still they didn't sign 250.
They actually got nothing.
Right? Those guys didn't. I mean, Puig left Arizona State to go play.
I mean, he got on the team and gets a minimum of $100,000 for finishing in last place or something, and like that would.
Yeah,
I don't think.
And then the team money, but the team money goes into I think a bank account for them to be able to travel and do whatever.
But also, it's guaranteed starts. Like he did not have that going to the PGA Tour. I mean, there's plenty of guys. Goddard's a good example who were studs in college.
The Cootie, you're right. The Cooties. I mean, there's a ton of guys.
I mean, that's the avenue. I'm telling you, like, I don't blame any of the college guys that go there. None.
No, and I think that's what I was kind of getting at was we give a lot of credit to Puig and Niemann for going out and playing, but I think they literally still have to play golf because they still, while they're playing for big purses, they still have a little bit of a drive because they're not sitting on, multi-generational money. And
totally,
I'm not sure if this is. I'm now very interested to see what next year looks like for Rahm. I don't even care about the Open. Like the Open can be the Open and whatever, but showing up to the Masters next year with maybe this was just a lost year. Like a lot of golfers have weird years where a lot of things happen in their life and it can be whatever, it could be that they got a divorce or they got married or they had a kid or they had a tragedy or whatever. And like, there are these things that happen and that you could just chalk it up to like, that was a lost year. And I'm fascinated to see what next year looks like for Rahm, because then it starts to really become interesting of like, oh, this guy made a massive mistake because the PGA Tour and Liv did not get together fast enough. He thought he was going to be playing on the PGA Tour again. So I don't know. The other note for me for Pete is that Patrick Reed now has his 21 major streak broken, which is like, here's another side effect of leaving for Liv is now he is run out of his exemptions. He won the Masters in 18. Kidding. So now he's starting to run out of things. Like this is the pressure that could fall, and he's not going to get special invites, and he's not going to be at these golf tournaments anymore. Like he might never play in a major again. Who the hell knows? And so that's another thing as these guys start to trickle
every year. Meals.
That's right. Sorry, he gets to play in the Masters. So the other ones, he doesn't strike me as a guy who's going to try to qualify for the U.S. Open on a regular basis.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I mean, I would not have made that assessment of him last year. I'm surprised he pulled out this year. I mean, you see guys like Sergio and Adam Scott, who Sergio is the most surprising one that has gone and tried to qualify, and he's done it the last 2 years. Shocking there.
Yeah.
But yeah,
well, I think
his avenues are severely limited.
Yes, and I think that's another thing that the PGA Tour can point to, or that players who want to compete can point to. And Bryson is another. Bryson's clock is ticking. Wyndham Clark, 2 miscuts in the 2 majors this year. Had an incredible spring. A lot of people were talking about like, man, he'd have 3 wins if it wasn't for Scottie. He'd have a Players and a U.S. Open in a calendar year. And now, this guy doesn't have a swing coach. He's just got a mental coach, and is homegrown, and he's 30. He's kind of done this the way old pros used to do it. And now, like, he's a guy I'm watching very closely this week because defending the title is a little bit more pressure too. And missing a 3rd cut in a row in the majors seems to me like that might set some alarm bells off for folks.
Yeah. So I was never like on the Wyndham Clark train. I mean, golf is historically a sport that you can get really hot for, regardless of your pedigree. I mean, there was a period of time, I think it was the early 2000s, maybe mid 2000s, where Kenny Perry was like the greatest golfer in the entire world.
Yeah. We talked about him last time because of the Louisville stuff and Valhalla.
And Jay Haas was one of the greatest golfers in the world when he was in his late 40s, or one of the top 20 golfers in the world. And so Wyndham was never a stud junior. Obviously, very good junior, went to Oklahoma State and then Oregon. Like, you can't be. I will sort of walk back my comments there. Like, those are studs that go to those schools, but he was never talked about in the same realm of his peers, right? Like, he just wasn't. And so, but you can always get hot in the game. He needs to sustain it for longer for me to be like, this is an aberration than his wins being the norm.
Yeah. It's just, I mean, before the Masters, there was real conversation. He was in the top 5 in the world, which you can give or take some of that because of the live guys. You could even say top 10.
Easily top 10.
But before he won the Wells Fargo, he was, in the whatever 100. He was in the hundreds.
He was playing the opposite field event the week before the Wells Fargo, or like 2 weeks before the Wells Fargo.
Yeah. So he's just a guy who, he might be a cautionary tale. We could hear about him making some change in the next 6 months. Like, Wyndham Clark. Wyndham Clark went to see Butch Harmon. Yeah, Wyndham Clark is talking to Pete Cowan. Or
these golfers are delusional, by the way. A lot of, like, 90% of them are. The clown comments that he made a few weeks ago that he wanted the tour to be smaller. Like, dude, if the tour was smaller a year ago,
I know he wouldn't have. Yeah,
you wouldn't have existed you would not have made a Ryder Cup. Like, it's preposterous that he was saying those things, and it just goes to show you that these guys live in their own world as it suits them. 90%.
Oh, for sure. And whatever point they reached, they would have reached no matter how tall the wall, right? Like, Wyndham Clark stood up there when he said that, and I think in the back of his mind when he said it, he thought, I would have been here anyways, even if this was 100-person PGA Tour. Like, I was always good enough to get there, and now I'm here.
Do you know how many guys are good enough? Do you know how many guys are good enough? I mean, like,
yes.
You and I live in a sphere that we luckily get to see some of these guys that are good enough that will never even sniff that venue. And so,
I know. I mean, we watch reinstated amateurs who, gave it a run, and we watch very, very good amateurs who are about to give it a run, and some of them will just flame out. It's a really hard sport.
And then, like, Xander Schauffele, he goes to San Diego State. Like, it's really hard, and it's such a cool, like, this is what I love about it, is it makes people who, like, you and I would look at, and I have one of my best friends who tried to turn pro. He turned pro. And it's like, probably shouldn't do that. Like, you're kind of wasting a couple years. But he could point to a few people who had his stats and who ended up making it, right? So, like, you just get hot at the right time and you make it. And that's why so many people do I'm going to turn pro for a couple of years and I'm going to try and make it. And that's the beauty of the game. It's the beauty of the U.S. Open, that anybody can qualify.
We got a 29-year-old science teacher playing.
Exactly.
It's amazing.
So, like,
it's amazing.
It is the great part of the game, for sure, that anyone who's playing any sort of golf can get hot at a certain point in life and get in there.
Yep. Viktor Hovland, before we get to Tiger, was my NR picks, was my just the other kind of a nightmare Masters, gets back together with his coach and has an awesome PGA. Seems a little bit more grounded. He was on the set with Live From yesterday and just talking about his curiosity and his desire to go and try a bunch of random he used it like opening doors and figuring out what's behind them before he closes them and knows he doesn't need to go back in there again. He's a little bit of a maniac, but it
I like
feels
him.
I like him too. I like him.
I like that he got kind of pissed off. Like he got a lot of shit in media for being more ornery when he wasn't playing well, and like I just think that means he's genuine. Like he was bad, right? Like he was. It's his job, and at the end of last year, everyone was crowning him the best player in the world. Literally, it was Scottie and Viktor Hovland. People forget this. He was like the second best player.
He was awesome. He shoot 20. He shot a 27 at the BMW. Something insane.
Preposterous.
Yeah.
And so then he has a little bit of bad stretch. Fires his short game coach, which there are weird rumors there, but yeah. So like I don't know. I think he is I don't mind emotional swings. Like I think he's a genuine person.
Yeah, I do too. Him and Bryson for me, like I just for whatever reason, I like the way Viktor, because they're both quirky and they're both interesting in their own ways, but just the way he carries himself and the way he delivers things, I prefer more than I do Bryson. And I think they are very similar personalities.
I think it's wild that you call them similar personalities, but
well, I guess not personalities, but like they have their like curiosity and their kind of willingness to just kind of ramble on about stuff. Like you could just put a mic in front of both of them and they're going to just start kind of talking, and they'll talk themselves in circles and they'll say stuff that you're like, wait, what? But Hovland, it feels to me more genuine, I guess. I know you think Brooks is, or that Bryson is genuine. I don't necessarily completely believe that Bryson is 100% genuine, but I just prefer Hovland's way of delivering his quirkiness than Bryson's.
By the way, you don't have to like someone's genuineness. Like he's, I
don't know if it's genuine. I'm challenging the fact that
I just don't know that you
sure
can fake it that much. I don't know that you can like fake it constantly. But who knows? Not for us to. We're certainly not the judge in this.
But
in this case, but yeah, like again, I'll go with give me the guys that are a little bit different than a guy like Xander Schauffele, who's the most boring Patrick Cantlay person in the entire world. And
go ahead. No, go ahead. Because I was going to move on, so I'll let you finish. I'm sorry.
I was going to move on to Scottie Scheffler and something. So.
Okay, go for it. Take us there.
So I've had many conversations talking about people being genuine. I've had multiple conversations in the past few months about Scottie Scheffler, and I freaking love this guy. I think his game speaks volumes, and I've had people very close to me that, yeah, but I don't like when he talks about his faith and how he thinks about God, Jesus, all these things. Like, but that's him. Like, that is him, and he's trying to let you. And by the way, most of the time, it's reporters prodding, like Southern SEC school type reporters prodding him, trying to get him to open up about that. And I think he's being genuine about that. I don't think it's him trying to hide it, especially when he's asked about it. But some people just, have don't talk about religion, don't talk about politics. But like in the same respect, they want you to also give them something. And he's giving you something. And just because you don't like it, or whether you, I'm not. So it's a little bit of a tangent, but I think it's Scottie being very open about how he thinks about things. I think he's being genuine.
Scottie, his press conference yesterday, I find him, we've talked about this, I find him boring. But he gave a really interesting answer to a question about it's about working hard or being number one in the world. And he said he has in his gym all of these hats hanging on the wall from when he was a kid.
Love that.
He was like, I would get a hat at the beginning of the summer and I would wear that one hat. If I loved it, I would wear it through the whole summer and it would get destroyed. Like I would sweat through it, and I kept them and I put them on my gym wall as a reminder that I'm not necessarily here because I just have I have God-given skill, but each one of those hats represents a summer as a kid where I was hitting balls on a driving range and competing and playing golf. And that's why I'm here where I am now. And I thought, what an incredible, it was just, I was like, that is awesome. What a cool little nugget.
I do think he's starting to open up a little bit more.
Yeah. Well, the guy got arrested. He was kind of like laid bare at the PGA. I think that almost fast tracked him a little bit in some respects.
It totally fast tracked him. And there's not a single video that has come out that has been like, oh, he was being a dick. Like it was all the other way.
I know. Yeah.
But so I guess my question to you is, like, what's the difference between him and Tiger? Is it just that he doesn't fist bump?
So Scottie
because Tiger does not. Tiger gave zero answers, for a long time.
Yeah, but I mean, Tiger was more exciting to watch play golf because he was. I think he was
fist bump guy.
I mean, let's be honest here. He was also a black athlete playing a sport dominated by white people, right? So that's already like he's immediately an outsider in this sport. I'm 15 years old and transfixed by this person who's like closer in age to me than Scottie Scheffler is, right? I'm 40 now. You know, Tiger's 8 years older than me. So like the age kind of, I think, mattered a little bit.
We're right where we are, right in between them, I think.
Well, you are. I'm not. I'm older than you.
It's pretty close. It's not.
But it's close. It's close. But like you're more, I'm watching Scottie as someone who's 13 years older than him, whereas I'm watching Tiger kind of looking up to this guy who's like not that much older than me. So like for me, that's why I found Tiger compelling and interesting. And maybe it's why I didn't really, again, the Phil Tiger world, I was on the Tiger side.
But
Scottie doesn't give much when you watch him play golf. Like if you watch him, he's got his head down. He doesn't acknowledge anybody. He, you know, after winning the Memorial, he, you know, gets asked by Balionis, like some question. He always gives like oh, this is fun. This is just kind of doesn't know. He just isn't like super. I think he's getting more engaging. I think he becomes more interesting the more he wins. I think Tiger right off the bat as a 21-year-old was winning and like dominating. And that makes you more interesting as well. So over time, I think Scottie will probably become less boring. I don't like boring. We had a long text chain about it. And I don't see boring as necessarily a pejorative thing all the time. Like he's amazing at golf. He's not the most intriguing character and he can be a little boring. I mean, people are calling the Celtics boring. People are calling Jason Tatum boring. Like they don't give people much. Like, okay, that's fine. I kind of disagree because I've been watching them for 7 years and they have been very much not boring and might have taken years off the end of my life. But again, like Scottie I have no connection to Scottie. He's, you know, we've talked about individuals versus team sports. Just as far as the interest level for Scottie, he doesn't draw me in. He's great to watch play golf, but I loved that hat piece. That for me was one of those little nuggets that showed he thinks about this stuff a little bit.
I think he's more of a psychopath than people know. Like, in the hat thing
I think that's fair.
Was a great insight.
Even his reaction after winning Memorial on Sunday with his caddy, like he made that putt and he went over and it was kind of this like, come on. Just this kind of funny little, he wanted to punch him. He wanted to punch Ted Scott, like out of excitement. Wasn't quite sure what to do.
He's sort of mastered the art of smiling when he says things. And if you watch his press conference and you just read the transcripts, it's all about like, I hate to lose and I love to win.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of that.
I mean, he's competitive as hell.
If you just read that, then you'd be like, man, this guy's like a killer. Like this guy all he wants to do is win. But then when you watch him say it, it's like he chuckles in between it. And he's like, you know, like,
Yeah.
Yeah, I hate to lose. I'd love to win. And like, that's a very different, but I think the words are true.
Yeah. Tiger Woods, speaking of.
I'm already calling it. He's my dark horse for the week.
You think so?
Oh, if he's ever going to win another major,
I
like
know.
this week sets up just delightfully for him.
I think
great pairing, great time.
I was thinking the same thing a little bit. It's going to be 93 degrees all 4 days. I am interested to see how he holds up in that weather. We've seen him not hold up in cold weather.
He lives in the weather. He
doesn't play major championship golf in that weather, and he doesn't walk. I mean, like we said, it's not a hard walk, but
not a hard walk. Like compared to Augusta, which he made the cut at, by the way.
Yes.
This golf course, he doesn't have the intimate knowledge, but nobody has the intimate knowledge. It sets up perfectly for him. Like he can still have the chips and the feels. He can hit like little bleeding 2 irons off the tee if he wants to. And if it's even par, like he doesn't need to make a million birdies. I don't know. If it's gonna happen, it's here.
Yeah, I'm not sure the score is going to be even par. I think he's going to have to make some birdies. I think the USGA loves 6. I think 6 under is their sweet spot right now. That's interesting. I just wanted to quickly, I think the dichotomy right now of Tiger Woods showing up and saying like, I think I can win, and then having Charlie Woods as his like player support badge person wandering the golf course with him, and him saying, Charlie knows my swing better than anybody. He's seen me hit more balls than anyone. I wonder what Butch Harmon first off thinks about hearing those statements. But the dichotomy hits me as it just doesn't completely add up to me that he is bringing Charlie into this fold, but he also is trying to win a major championship. And I think like if he's on his bag, I know. Okay, please do. I'm not a father, so this is a foreign thing to me too.
No, it's not about being a father. It's about being a big time type A personality and how that translates. And because he's a type A personality, which basically means everything centers around you. That's my interpretation. That's not. I mean, others can have different. I'm not.
Well, it's a control piece. There's a type A's like to control.
They like to control the narrative and everything. And when you become a father as a type A, and I've watched people do that, you like your view of yourself as a father is like not transposed into your kid, but it's transposed into what you think other people view you as a father. Does that make sense? And so like he wants this as like a showcase of him being a good dad.
Right.
As weird as that sounds, I'm telling you, he thinks like him showing up at Augusta. And by the way, Tiger does not need Charlie out there. Like
I know.
He doesn't need him out there. But
he had him out of the Masters too.
I know. And he is the ultimate type A personality. Like he's an A+ personality if there was one. And so like a lot of those guys are type A personalities that aren't bringing their kids out there. But he's doing it as a little bit of a show, in my opinion, because Charlie is not. He'll get a college scholarship offer because of who he is, and maybe he deserves it. Like he's a good player, like he's not going to be a tour player or significant tour player.
Well, right, but we don't know that. I mean, you can't say that right now, but he doesn't seem like he's on that path compared to his peers, which I follow closely enough working in the writing and doing stuff for amateurgolf.com. You see the kids who are 15, 16, 17, 18. Like he's not Jackson Coyven, right? No. Like he's not on the path to be.
But there are different paths. Like there are definitely different paths for sure.
Yes.
And so like I don't need to discount it, but there are. I mean, Kuchar's kid has qualified for things, and others. Like there are plenty of people out there that have kids that are good players.
it's also people are so afraid of Tiger that like Stuart Sink had his kid on the bag when he win at Harbour Town a couple years ago? He was contending at Harbour Town, right? And even people just thought that was kind of an odd pairing, even though there's been like Jack won with his kid on the bag at 86.
It's less weird to have a caddy than it is to have him out there. Like,
I agree, but people were still kind of commenting that Sink having his kid on the bag was kind of this wild thing for a pro who ends up winning on tour and his kid's on the bag. McIntyre had his dad on the bag last week. It's the reverse, which was amazing. The Tiger Woods thing.
I think it's different. I don't think they're the same thing.
No, they're not. They're not the same thing. But what I can't square, and maybe he'll win this week, or maybe he'll compete, I just can't square him showing up and poo-pooing the golf. What is it? The golfer, just the ceremonial golfer who shows up, but then he's got like Charlie is the guy. He's the kid, the person who's bringing him around.
It doesn't seem like that in his mind. It does.
Yeah,
it is not that.
I know.
It is not that. And to you, both of those things can't be true, but to him, they can be true.
They can be. Yep. No one seems to want to challenge him or ask him, like.
Well, because it's cool. Like, and by the way, like, they have very good genes, right? His ex-wife is this gorgeous Swedish model, and we never see her around anymore. We don't see Sam around anymore, and so Charlie is the one that wants to be in the spotlight. And like, he could choose not to be. Like, he knows all these things too.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not sure who's going to say no to, hey, do you want to come walk with me at Pinehurst for the Open? Maybe he'll be on the bag in a couple of years. Maybe he'll just be.
Maybe he'll be
his caddy for a little bit at the end of this whole thing. Anyways, it struck me.
And
the Masters struck me as funny.
No, I just have to bring this up. LeBron is literally going to get his son drafted.
Yeah, I just it would nothing. The only thing
he says he doesn't care about. He actually doesn't. I mean, this guy played 3 minutes a game for USC.
I know.
And LeBron is going to get his kid drafted into the NBA. Like, so this is the type A type personality that you do. Like, you manifest these things.
Yep. Yeah. I just hope the Celtics draft him and bury him in Maine for the next 5 years.
God, that would be the best.
Yep. How do you like Portland, Bronny?
Oh, wait, you want to give us an asset? Sure, we'll take your first round pick.
Yep. All right, let's get to, speaking of picks, let's get to our picks. We've been rambling for a while here now. We'll rip through these. We'll ramble these off quickly.
I thought this was going to be like our quickest podcast ever, by the way.
I did too. When you start a little earlier in the evening too, you're not as eager to hop off. So we wandered. It's the halfway point. There's a lot to talk about, and let's get to our picks. I don't even know.
How are you going to do this? Like, should we just give Scottie to the field because it's?
Oh, you just don't want to pick Scottie. You think whoever gets the first pick gets Scottie?
I mean, I'm telling you, if we're doing this legitimately, I'm taking Scottie with my first pick, and if you don't, then it's a perfect golf course for him. If you,
I know.
If you said Scottie or 5 players, Scottie versus the field is kind of obscene, like, because he is plus 320 or whatever it is. If you said Scottie or 5 players, what would you take?
If I could pick the 5 players?
Yeah, no, you pick the 5 players.
I mean, I'm so bad at this, I would just take Scottie.
I'm taking Scottie all day.
Yeah.
It's the best golf course for him.
Yep. Well, you won with him, and you took him at the PGA. So
no, you took him at the PGA. I declined to take him with my first pick, and then you went. You're like, "Are you kidding?" And you took him.
Oh, okay. And then he got arrested. So that's good. I don't think we have to do anything with Scottie. If you want to pick him first, you can pick him first, and I will.
All right, if I'm going first, I'm picking Scottie.
Okay, great. You take Scottie.
Yeah.
There we go. That seems fine. That's fine. I mean, that's what happens when you get a guy who's super dominant. You know, this is a Wemby situation.
So the fried egg, like the club pool, they just literally gave everybody Scottie. Said we're not even going to do this. Everyone gets Scottie.
Are you serious?
Yeah,
that's awesome. Well, I lose Scottie, and I'm not taking Rory, who we didn't even talk about him.
Hey, congrats to Rory.
The latest news.
The master flip flopper of the world is flip flopped on divorce.
Well, we don't know the story, but we do know that this afternoon or tonight it was announced that they have torn up the divorce papers or whatever, but so they are now he's now not getting divorced.
They announced he was getting divorced the week of the PGA, right?
It was Monday of the PGA.
Like, what is he doing?
And
like,
another major week, and he's back together, and they've reconciled their differences and have mended their marriage. So that's where Rory is right now. I mean, he flew in today. He didn't go to Harrington's Hall of Fame thing last night, which it didn't strike me as well. Now maybe it's clear why, with the announcement of the divorce not going through. Maybe he was like, I have to be home and I got to go on. So he showed up this afternoon, did another really quick press conference, didn't say anything about the divorce, and then released that and missed Harrington's Hall of Fame speech and induction, which is completely fine. But like Shane Lowry was there.
There was a lot of people there.
There were a lot of people there. Yes.
Can you imagine if Rory wins and his wife and kid comes out of the
What a story. Jeez Louise. He's had a great run. He was Opens too. It could happen.
Classic Rory, yeah.
Jeez. Incredible. Okay. I am, man, this, I mean, I get two guys. All right. This is the first time I like really didn't do a whole bunch of work or research because
I mean, I know one of you guys are picking. If it's not second, I'm not going to do it to you, but I know one of them.
You do?
Oh yeah.
Okay. I want you to tell me who you think I'm going to pick. This is going to be good. I will be honest and tell you if you're right or wrong.
There is zero doubt that in your top three, you have Tommy Fleetwood.
That's true. I was just looking at his name. That's amazing. I'm going to start. I'm not going to start with him. I'm going to leave him on the table. If you want to take him, you can have him.
I'm not going to take him.
I am going to take the guy who always plays well when no one's talking about him and the golf course is super hard. I'm taking Brooks Koepka first.
Oh, God dang it. That was when
this is like the Brooks Koepka. Everyone talks about him and he doesn't play well. And now I have not heard anyone talk about him.
He was actually going to be my number one pick. Like if you picked Scottie,
if we left Scott, yeah.
100%. Everything that you just said, the course is so hard. Literally nobody, because everyone was talking about him going into Augusta.
Yes.
And Koepka is so prime for this tournament. If it's not Scottie, it's Koepka. It's a great pick.
Finished T26. He finished T9 last week. I think I heard he shot like 60. He shot some good number the last day. He's finished T9, which, I mean, that's T9 in a live event isn't that great, but yeah, he just feels like this is the one where on Friday people are going to be like,
100%.
We forgot to talk about Brooks.
And I have been watching Golf Channel all week and they haven't mentioned
not a word. Not a word. It's amazing.
And the Masters, everyone was talking about him. And by the way, this guy's a 2-time US Open champ, 3-time PGA champ. I'm actually kind of glad. It is ridiculous.
Give me Viktor Hovland as my second one.
Victor?
I'm going to take Victor second. I don't feel super good about it, but I there's something about the courses when there's one skill that is necessary, but it's also the hardest part of the golf course that can be an equalizer. And Hovland's got a pretty good short game now, but there's
So
a
it's
little
good-
bit of luck
That's a good point.
involved with like where your ball ends up. Does it end up in the shrub? Does it end up in the waist area? It's a little bit of an equalizer. So you don't have to be an exceptional chipper or pitcher of the ball. You just have to be good enough. And
So I do think that an exceptional chipper will win, but if you want to play out a scenario where it might not, it's if you drive the ball exceptionally well and you hit your irons exceptionally well, you don't have to chip that much. Like
right.
Those are the two things, and Hovland has that.
Yep. Yep.
So
and I think he's kind of fixed he's worked through his
in
blip.
fact, he will have. He's my number one guy. Like if you want to pick a round to win, like he will win a round because he won't have to chip.
Yeah. Right. He's gonna have one awesome ball striking round.
So this next pick, I hope doesn't win. Nor do I think he will win. It's just one of those. Well, after the fact, it kind of makes sense. You know how? Actually, I'm not going to use that analogy. So Xander Schauffele just won his first major, and there's one guy that he's always been compared with, always plays practice rounds with, who everyone thinks that should have won a major by now. And I'm going to go with Patrick Cantlay.
You're going to take Patrick Cantlay?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay.
And for the only reason that I don't think anyone outside of who we just talked about beforehand is gonna. I think those are who's gonna win. But if someone does, and someone's like, "Wow, Patrick Cantlay was so inspired by his buddy that he won a major," that's it. I don't have really much else to say about him.
That's an interesting storyline. Like that would be on like just Friday evening, Cantlay, in the top 5, and people are like, "Oh, he guess Xander lit a fire in his ass because he's been playing like crap."
It's a pure storyline pick.
Yeah,
pure storyline pick.
Yeah, because you don't think anyone outside of Brooks, Viktor, and Scottie can win this tournament. So you're now just looking for like what's a story that could make sense as far as something that could happen this week that would shine through.
So, draws matter, right? So like you have to get the right draw, and there are definite advantages and disadvantages to early, late, early. Somebody could come out of it. And Pinehurst does neutralize distance, so I do think the best player will win. So I don't think you're going to see I can't see a Michael Campbell winning here.
Yeah.
But it's still there's a lot of things that can happen.
The list is short. And you were just talking about the draw. I was scrolling through tee times because John Rahm dropped out. Jackson Suber, who's an Ole Miss, I think he graduated a couple years ago, just gets plopped in a group with Hideki and Jordan Spieth as the alternate. Like, imagine.
Oh my God!
Imagine just hanging out at Pinehurst. You're the first alternate, and you get the call like, "Hey, Rahm's out, so you're in with Hideki and Jordan Spieth at 1:36 on Thursday in a featured group. Like you're gonna have cameras fucking everywhere following you around. Good luck, bud."
Didn't Omar Uresti get plucked into a feature group with like Rory and someone at the Canadian Open last year?
Right. I think you're right. Yeah. Yep. Just incredible stuff. I hope he plays well. That would be a great story.
And he's a good player too. So my last pick is a little bit out of the box, or outside the box, and it's JT, Justin Thomas. I think this guy thrives on creativity. He has not been playing well. Amazing short game.
Yep.
And I think he can like pop up. Like I think 2 years ago at Southern Hills, he kind of popped up and won. Like that is again, I so think Scottie is going to win this. I'm sort of trying to think outside the box, but with my other picks, I think JT could come through this week.
Okay.
He could
I did
also
not see that
shoot
coming.
79, 80.
Yep. Yeah, you absolutely could. I mean, great wedge player, but like with Hovland, does that just get mitigated because it's so hard for everybody that even if you're world class at it, you're not gaining as many strokes around the greens. Maybe not hitting it as far because he's kind of notably lost some distance might help him too. It sounds like listening to Fried Egg, Andy Johnson talk it, the whole golf course kind of chokes at 300 yards, and if he's able to just hit driver kind of a little bit more freely, maybe he does have a good week. But that guy cannot putt. It's a huge problem. Huge
He
problem.
can't
But
do a
maybe
lot of
another
things.
mitigating factor.
It was honestly I think the creativity factor that has led me to pick him. But I don't think that many of these guys have a chance.
Yeah. Well, I'm not taking Fleetwood.
What?
I'm not gonna take Fleetwood.
Oh, I would have taken him then.
Really?
No.
Yeah, I was thinking. I'm gonna go with another European and a dude who's super streaky. He kind of bucked his head at the PGA. Awesome short game. Was at Patty Harrington's Hall of Fame induction. Good vibes. Another Irishman. I'm taking Shane
Please tell
again.
me.
I'm back on
God.
the Shane.
The guy
Shane
shot
wagon. Now
83 last week.
That's fine. He had a good PGA. He's streaky as hell. Now listen. If you want to talk to me about how he's going to handle 93-degree heat for 4 days, I'll have that conversation. As a fellow Irishman, that can be a challenge. But I think he could have a good week. And the other one I was kind of playing around with because he was a low am in 2014. I was looking at his scores. Is Matty Fitz, but I'm not taking Matty Fitz. But he'd be another one like maybe worth just
he was on my radar.
He had a good week last week. He shot 71, 73, 78, 69 in 14. He finished T48. He was low am. We know how he does at U.S. Opens where he had a good amateur showing. So he'd be another one worth. Maybe if you're looking for like a top 10, he could be a good bet. But those are my three. So I've got
Shane, Hovland,
Brooks. Yep, and you've got Scottie, Cantlay,
and JT. I've got the old boys club, the USA.
Absolutely.
Didn't realize that. Yeah.
Dark horse.
I do think Tiger can have a very good week this week. He's not going to be my dark horse pick. I have a legit dark horse pick that I actually might put some money on, even more than a Cantlay or JT.
Okay.
I think Keegan has a chance.
Oh, okay. Good ball striker.
Yeah, just a really good ball striker whose short game has improved over the years. Like, I could see Keegan and a guy that's won too. Like, I think winning matters. Like, if you're going to put a bet on somebody that wins or that can win, you shouldn't put a bet on, I don't know, Adam Hadwin or something.
Right.
Which I know a lot of people are hot on, but yeah, I think Keegan. I like Keegan. Great ball striker.
Yeah, man, that would be a hell of another good story. Winning 2 majors, 13 years apart.
I mean, it would basically put him in the Hall of Fame.
Yep, absolutely. It would be incredible. That's a good one. I'm gonna take a guy who had he played okay at the PGA. He is pretty good around the greens. He's like a pretty consistent player all around. Mark Hubbard as just like a way off the radar. Let's throw a dark horse out. Guy's been playing pretty well. One of those you turn on the TV like Thursday, Friday, and he's just kind of around. He doesn't.
So he's been playing great, and I don't think that you should bet him to win. But if you want to make money and you want this like flyer, a top 10 would be amazing.
Yeah, I mean he shot 65, 68 73-69 at the PGA. I know that tournament was very different than Pinehurst, but just that little bit of like, oh man, he played well in the first round of a major. He had a good first 2 rounds, and then just had a bad Saturday. He's playing well. I think was Saturday like kind of rainy and crummy at Valhalla, or was that Friday? I didn't get to watch a bunch. I just remember seeing Scottie in like a rain. Maybe that was Friday because he was showing up from the jail cell.
The Friday was the delayed.
Yeah. Okay. So that's my pick.
So
any trunk slammer?
Trunk slammer. Bryson.
Oh, okay. He was on my short list of guys I thought could potentially win. Is Spieth going to make the cut?
It's funny. I was just looking at tee times and I saw Spieth. Well, when you said Spieth, Matsuyama, and the guy that filled up
Jackson Suber, yeah.
I don't think this course sets up very well for Spieth.
No,
he's just such an anomaly. I don't know. I would say yes, he makes the cut, but I'm not confident in it.
Okay.
What do you say?
I don't think he makes the cut. I think he's
your trunk slammer?
I think he's my trunk slammer. He seems like he's hurt and he's lost, and he just needs to.
So the other thing that my last bit of advice, which as everyone knows, you should never follow.
Just give it the Costanza. The opposite.
Do not. I don't think you're going to see a hole-in-one this week. So everyone loves to bet like the hole-in-one. And they juice the odds for plus hole-in-one. I do not. These par threes
are so hard.
Are not conducive to hole-in-ones. Like they repel balls. And yeah, obviously these guys are the best players in the world, so there's a chance they could get one, but the odds
are not in your favor.
They're not in your favor. I
can't remember. Was there a hole-in-one last year at LACC? I don't those par threes, except for the 15th or whatever, or the short one, which they just put the pin in zany spots. I don't remember that being.
I don't remember. It's
and Brookline. I don't remember there being one. The U.S. Open is not built for hole-in-ones, people. This is not Augusta.
It's not, and the odds are probably like minus 110 to get a hole-in-one because they know everyone's going to bet the yes.
Yeah, right. Because you want to root for hole-in-ones.
Correct.
Yeah, for sure. Hideki Matsuyama is the current longest cut streak holder. He's made the last 16 cuts in majors. If you're looking for someone who might be a good bet to make the cut, even when he's hurt and banged up, he makes cuts at majors. So might be a good one to sprinkle some money onto. But
he's kind of like, he's got a little Luka in him, right? Like, I mean, you don't know what's going on with him, and then he goes out and shoots 62 at Riviera.
Yep. And he had a good week at Memorial.
He did, yeah.
He had finished like 5th, top 10 somewhere. So what did he finish here? He finished 8th at Memorial. So yeah, another good little bet there. Make if you're going to parlay a bunch of guys, he might be a good one to make the cut, which means he will absolutely miss the cut this week. So.
Do not listen to us.
Well, I'm looking forward to watching and checking out Pinehurst,
awesome.
And it's going to make
start,
me
right. Like it's right.
Yeah,
right,
make sure you got Peacock. I think there's some required Peacock subscription viewing this week too. They're going to try to push some folks over to their streaming service on Thursday night and Friday afternoon. I think the last hour on Friday is on Peacock. So if you want to see if people make the cut, you're gonna have to follow.
Are you kidding me? Oh, that's so bad.
Oh yeah, that's what they were saying on No Laying Up. They were pumping a discount on TV yesterday and today with like a QR code, and you get Peacock for a year for like $20 instead of $60. So they're just trying to capture as many people as they can, which is kind of gross, but that's the world we live in. So
different podcast.
Yeah. Yep. All right, Berkey, have a good week and enjoy the U.S. Open, and we'll be back in like 4 weeks for the Open.
Thanks. Sounds good.
All right. See ya.